Do you manage people or run projects where most of the team members are not located within the same building? How are you dealing with issues that comes when the communication, especially at meetings, is not what you'd like and teams are not participating? I'm Naili Makangu. I'm the founder of Athena Leaders, a management and leadership consultancy designed to turn your life and workplace into a playground. I'd like to invite you to share with me some tips on how you've dealt with that problem. Over the next few minutes, I will share with you some ideas on how I've changed my mindset and encourage my team to change the mindset to improve the participation of teams that are based in different locations. Now, the world is changing rapidly. The concept of remote working is really taking hold, and I hope that it's here to stay, and I believe it's here to stay. There are many companies that, especially startups, that will start from being remote all the way through the development. And at the same time, strong companies such as Twitter are announcing that they also want to go remote, which is exciting. Now, for the purpose of this talk, one particular scenario that came to mind and I wanted to really touch upon and encourage people to share ideas is, what if you have distributed teams? For instance, it could be that you have most of your team in one building with other people logging in remotely, or a team in Cambridge, in China, or in Europe. And how do you make sure that all the teams participate fully when you have meetings, calls, and whatnot? Now, casting back a few years, and that's something that I've done quite a lot actually in terms of managing distributed teams, but there was this particular project I was on. I was running a large project, and I was managing 20 developers that were based in Cambridge, in Cyprus in the US, and also in India. It was really exciting, absolutely loved it. One thing that we found is that some sites communicate more than others. Now, I'm not going to tell you the full story because there's not enough time, but one thing I'm going to ask and help you with is to start thinking of some of the things that you can do right now to change the mindset that will allow more communication within the team as well. Because communicating in a meeting is also a good way of seeing how your teams are coming along together, especially if you have to maintain a strong relationship on what you're working on with amongst different sites. Now, one of the first things I will ask you to do is to think a little bit about your setup. How are you set up? Back when I was running my teams, it's what I've talked about, we didn't have Zoom. We didn't have any whiteboarding tool that you can use to increase the participation at meetings. Now, those are things that are available. Are you using them at the moment? If not, I will encourage you to look at software like Miro, and there's more out there. And you can try out this idea of collaborating and whiteboarding and writing notes as you are in the meeting as well. The second aspect of things that I will ask in terms, especially in checking up your setting, is phone quality or call quality. Now, it's something that is very, very easy to overlook, especially if the manager of the team or the project is actually on site with most of the people and other people are logging in. What you'll notice is, if you are in a building where the internet communication or the internet service is not really strong, your Zoom calls, the quality won't be that great. And it's not a really nice experience for someone that is far away. So it's easy that at the beginning you've really tried to listen and the sound quality drops and you hear stuff here and there. You easily become distracted and you also might just not being able to engage properly. The second one, which is a small tweak, is where is the speaker and is placed in the meeting room. Now, you're probably wondering, those are really basic things. Yes, they are. And the reason why I mention it is that I've been in so many meetings, especially when I'm the one dialing in, where I can't really hear what other people are further away from the speakerphone. The practice is to have the speakerphone next to the person presenting, which is all well and good. But if you want to build this communication and this relationship within the team, you want people to hear everybody else in the meeting. This is to make sure that if there are people making jokes and relating to each other, people on the phone can also join in without, again, not missing out on information and eventually becoming disconnected as well. So those are kind of really basic things for you to look at. Now, I've got one challenge for you. again, as I said before, the tools that we have at our disposal today have changed drastically compared to a few years ago. Now, if you really want to get your team to communicate a lot at meetings, you need to be able to create the relationship between team members so that they are okay with this idea of talking in big groups, let alone over the phone. I will challenge you to turn on your camera. Why is it important? Well, you want to be able to see, especially the more distributed teams, people don't fly as much to be able to work with other team members. But we have the technology. Most people have laptops these days. If not, a small camera they can put on your desk is not that expensive. Why not use that to allow people to see each other face to face, to be able to feel the warmth, and to be able to really see the smiles and all this? That's really encouraging to build a strong team and to communicate properly as well. When I talk about the challenge of turning your camera on, it's not just for the big meetings. That's something I've seen a lot. People will turn on the cameras when it comes to a conference call, a weekly conference call and meeting. But when the teams work on a one-to-one basis, they're probably, if they talk to each other, they're on the phone or they Slack, but they don't really have the time to turn on the camera with each other. And that is what I'm challenging. That's what I want you to try to get your team to do, or if you're a team member, to get other people within your team to also join in this idea of let's get to see each other more often so that we can be able to create the relationship. Now, I'm not saying that whenever you need a question, that rather than sending it through Slack, and especially for companies that have asynchronous methods of communication, it's all fine. I'm just saying that whenever you have the opportunity and you need to talk to someone over the phone or on a Zoom call, turn on the camera and use that opportunity to organically start building the relationship that you need. The third thing you need to bear in mind as well, especially if you're going to use any of those techniques, is culture, right? So the culture is really important. Some people, this culture is a big topic and people behave differently. This idea of being on the camera will be different from one culture to another. The way people will explain information, or when they're upset or not upset, the way it comes across is very, very different. And an awareness of culture will allow you to understand why are different teams communicating differently. For example, in some cultures, it's really rude to be able to interrupt people. So they're more likely to wait and talk when there is an opening. If you're meetings, you get people who dominate meetings by talking a lot and not really allowing other people to jump in, then it makes it difficult for the people to talk. And likewise, there are cultures where it's very common to interrupt people as they're talking, because it's how you create a healthy debate and excitement. People who are not used to that will find that really rude. So again, in order to really be clear and allow your team to develop and improve the way you're communicating at meetings, why not talk about it? Don't make culture another taboo. How about have sessions with your team, with your departments, with your company, and make it okay to talk about our culture differences, so that we know where we stand, we know how we communicate, we know what is acceptable and not acceptable to each other. And we also know how we can use that in meetings to bring us all together so that we can talk in a more healthy way as well. So there you have it. I challenge you to go and try it out and let me know what you think. And also, if you have any other ideas, please feel free to add to my list. We looked at checking your setup. We looked at building the right culture, talking, and make it okay to talk about the culture differences when it comes to the way we communicate. And we also talk about turning the camera on. I am not talking about adding more meetings. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, whenever you meet, even as a two-person working on a problem, and you're going to have a call anyway, then why don't we turn the camera and let the other person come into our world and us going into theirs as well. Give me a note. I'm really interested to hear about you, why you think it will work or why you think it won't work, especially if you think it won't work. Then we can start a healthy debate of our own as well. With this technique, I hope that you can turn your life and workplace into a playground.